What's interesting about it, he was not a fresco painter. So he had to learn the fresco technique. He had called some of his artist friends from Florence, had them teach him how to be a fresco painter, how to do the fresco technique, so that he could basically master it. Hi, this is Anita with 5 Minutes with Art. And today I want to talk a little bit about Michelangelo and in particular the Sistine Chapel. When most people think about Michelangelo, they actually think about the Sistine Chapel and they don't think about many of his sculptures, which is really quite interesting because Michelangelo himself considered himself first and foremost to be a sculptor and to not necessarily be a painter, even though he's so well known for the Sistine Chapel. In the early 16th century, he received a commission for the Sistine Chapel. And at this time, he was quite well known because he'd done the statue David, and he'd seen a lot of great success. He was a favorite artist of the Pope. And so the Pope kind of gave him this commission to paint the chapel. And at the time, the chapel was painted just with blue and some little stars on it, been previously painted. And the Pope kind of thought like maybe you could just paint the 12 apostles and that would kind of be it. And at first he started sketching and thought, okay, I'll just do the 12 apostles. And then Michelangelo decided he needed to push himself and to be able to paint something great. And so there we have the art that we now know as this great art that's on the Sistine Chapel. What's interesting about it, he was not a fresco painter. So he had to learn the fresco technique. He had called some of his artist friends from Florence, had them teach him how to be a fresco painter, how to do the fresco technique, so that he could basically master it. He had to also create this huge scaffolding that would be used for painting the chapel. If anyone's ever had to paint your ceiling, with a brush, and you're looking up, and then, by the end of the day, having painted that ceiling, your neck is hurting you, your body's aching you. Imagine if you did that for 4 years straight. And that is exactly what Michelangelo did. He spent about 4 years painting the Sistine Chapel. And, so he had to be up on this special scaffolding all the time to try to take away the strain of the strenuous work of working on the ceiling. Scaffolding was built, but still he would stand up a lot of times. He would have his neck back, and he would be always constantly be painting above his head. The scaffolding allowed him to be about 60 feet in the air and to get as close to the ceiling as he could, but he still had to strain and exert himself to do the painting, even with the scaffolding in place. And this was a really, really tough work to do for this type of fresco. It means that he would have to, apply the plaster, and then he'd have to get the color and work very fast with that. Because once you apply the color, if you don't apply it when it's wet, then it will begin to mix and everything will become a problem. He also used some techniques where he, did an outline around some of the figurines. So this was really not an easy technique. This was not simply like an oil paint or, your oil painting. The fresco technique is actually quite a difficult technique, and it's not easy to master. This really tells me a lot about Michelangelo and his, ability to be able to master something or to take on a project this big, to do it on such a grand scale, and to make it become such a memorable thing that people today are in awe of him and his work on the Sistine Chapel. But a lot of people may not realize is that the personal cost that this work had to him personally, is extremely strenuous physical work, mental work, and I would imagine too emotional work. This was a very, very tough commission and project. They said that because of the fact that he strained his eyes so much, that for the rest of his life, his eyes were never the same. He actually suffered quite a bit because of the strain he put his body under to be able to paint the Sistine Chapel. Working that close to the ceiling in what must not have been good light at the time would have caused a tremendous strain on anyone's eyes, and it did cause it on his eyes. So, for the rest of his life, he essentially suffered from poor eyesight due to the work that he did on the Sistine Chapel. So next time you see a painting of the Sistine Chapel, if you happen to go there, remember the personal sacrifice that Michelangelo did to bring us this great work of art. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed 5 Minutes in Art, that you will check out our blog, Anita Louise Art, and that you will also like our podcast. And if you have any comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. We truly do appreciate you and your time.